Okay, we're getting started here in the Gospel of John for our men's Bible study, but anyone's welcome to watch, of course, and connect on Bible study if this grabs you. Wearing my clerics because I just got done with a funeral, so figured I'd just keep them on for the Bible study, make it feel more official maybe or something. Anyway, so I did a little overview with the first video. This will be the next one, and we're going to go verse by verse. Try to highlight some of the pieces of each verse to think about. And John's gospel starts with a bang, right? It's a cosmic vision of the creation. John borrows from that Genesis account a lot, sort of the gravity of it. In the beginning, right? Genesis talks about, God says, let there be light. Here, it starts off like that, only the focus is on the person of God and the part of God, really, who is doing the creating. And then later on, John uses this to make some claims about who Jesus is. So it's very deliberate and powerful setup here. So in verse 1, we see, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So this is a very poetic and deeply philosophical feeling kind of a statement right off the bat in verse 1. You have the beginning and you have this word. And it sort of harkens about, aspects of God that we don't understand. And, Christians talk about Trinity, and this sort of plays a little bit like that. Like there's these different parts to God. It's not specific to the Trinity. It doesn't say anything like that, but it's making a claim about God that is sort of plural and singular, right? The Word was with God and the Word was God. So it already kind of evokes all of that stuff, which is a little bit mind-blowing, right? Because we don't understand, what does it mean to be, to be with God and to be God, right? We have to think about that in a new way. It also is an echo of Proverbs chapter 8, verses 22 through 31. And I would really, I would encourage you to read that, Proverbs 8, 22 to 31. And that piece of Proverbs is really this look at what's called wisdom, right? So wisdom gets personified in that Proverbs text. And I think John really kind of borrows from that as well. So he uses this theme of Genesis 1, and he really uses this theme of Proverbs 8 and other places that talk about wisdom cooperating with the creation of the world, right? Cooperating with God, that it's wisdom who walks with God and is the source of the plan and the creation and the creativity. And it's interesting because wisdom in Hebrew is a feminine noun. Hebrew, it's chokmah is the word. I like that word, chokmah. Sounds like I got something in my throat. But in Greek translation of it, it's Sophia. And both of those are feminine words. And they get used to talk about this wisdom as, part of God's spirit, as a feminine, just evoking this idea that the part of God that is really helping plan all this out is feminine, is personified as feminine. Here in John's gospel, the word logos is the Greek word for word, right? The word for word, logos, and logos is masculine. So we see, he was with God in the beginning. So it's a really interesting parallel, but it changes, the gender is very different. So I don't know what to do with that other than, put that out there, but I think it's cool. Anyway, this word, being with God and being God, is with God. Verse 2, he is with God in the beginning. And then the verse 3 is kind of the payoff. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. And I'm reading from the NIV translation here. So this idea, all things were made through him, and there was nothing that was made without him, nothing was made that was made. That's a really interesting poetic kind of tool there. And if you want to know the fancy word for it, it's called antithetical parallelism, that, saying one thing's in the positive and then flipping it to the negative. All things were made through him. Without him, nothing was made that was made. I just really kind of like that. Anyway, making the claim here that this word, this logos, is the one that is really the driver or the mechanism or whatever it is that is able to create all. It's the intelligence of God that creates all things. And the Greek speakers, the Greek people that would have read this for the first time or heard this, this word logos would have been really powerful because it was already present in Greek philosophy. So the Stoics use the word logos quite a bit. And Platonists from Plato use the word logos as kind of the underlying principle of how things worked, right? The rational principle, kind of capturing all that idea like mathematics and physics and philosophy, how all of those go into they are the building blocks of the rest of creation, right? The rest of intelligence and the universe and matter all come through this logo. So they would have known this already. This isn't a new idea for them. But John is making a different claim about this logos, right? Saying, yes, this logos created all things in the universe, but then a little bit later he says this logos becomes a human being, right? So this is the setup. It's a very deliberate, powerful setup, making the claim that the center or the seat of rational intelligence, the planner, the organizer, the whatever that is, this one who is with God and is God becomes human, right? So, this is a lot, right? Right off the bat, I feel like it's such a big vision, such a cosmic vision that it's hard to even talk about it, right? But what is introduced here, one of the things, just a couple of fun things. So, in the first verse it says the Word was God. And just a reference, I know that in translations that are like the Jehovah's Witness are not Trinitarian, right? So they actually translate it, the Word was with God and the Word was, and they put the article in there, a God, right? The Word was with God and the Word was a God, because they see kind of God and Jesus as separate beings and not three in one like most Trinitarian Christians. So that's a really interesting part of a translation. If you ever read a Jehovah's Witness Bible, you'll see that. And then the word was in verse 1, was God, was with God, is imperfect in its tense. So it has a sort of a timelessness, right? It's not necessarily past, but this sense of how God and the Word are together is this kind of it's not defined, right? It's sort of undefined. It has no time, right? So that's the nature of that verb tense, which is interesting. And then let's see, verse 4, in him was life, and the life was the light of men. In him was life, and that life was the light of men. So this is the introduction of the word light, or in Greek it's phos, and also the word life, which is zoe in Greek, zoe and phos, and these are really strong themes in John's gospel. And light and life become kind of interchangeable in lots of ways. And later on, when Jesus is talking about light in different ways and life, they often get mixed together. And this is right off the bat, we're introduced to this idea of light and life being very, very linked. And then verse 5, the light shines in the darkness, but the darkness has not either overcome it. In many translations, I think like NRSV and King James and those have overcome it. So there's this almost fighting or resisting kind of an idea. But in the NIV, I like this translation too. The darkness has not understood it. And that's much more along the lines of what we also see in John's Gospel, is this idea of knowing and knowledge, and having the right knowledge is a theme in John's Gospel. So I like this translation of the darkness not understanding what this is about, not understanding the word or why the word is coming into the world. So I really like that translation. Either way, it gives different perspectives, overcome it or understood it. Nice to play with. But I've already gone over 10 minutes here, so I'm going to stop there. I want to keep these at least 10 minutes, between 5 and 10 minutes, and do multiple ones so they don't get too bogged down. But read John 1 and think about it. It's a good one. It's a deep one. And I'll see you next time.